Hi there friends, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm an avid Disney traveler and I love to take you guys along with me on adventures and then also provide you with helpful information for your next trip. So today we are going to be diving deeper into Disney Cruise Line information. And if this is your first time checking out this series, I'm going to leave a playlist above that you can check out to see more Disney cruise related content. We're talking ship tours, room tours, and just more helpful information, especially if you're going to be going on your first ever Disney cruise. So now let's talk about what should you pack for a Disney cruise. I'm sure you're super excited, can't wait to board, but it's important to make sure that you and your family have everything that you need. All right, so let's start with the basics, luggage. So what sort of suitcases, bags, backpacks should you bring? Well, it all depends on how long your voyage will last. If you're planning on going on a Disney cruise that's going to last anywhere between 2 to 4, maybe even 5 days, most likely you can take a small carry-on luggage. And what I mean by that would be kind of like if you've ever flown with those kind of smaller rolly backpacks. They're typically less than 21, 22 inches in height, and you can store them above the overhead bin on an aircraft. Then in addition to that, you may also want to have a backpack or a duffel bag with you for some of the things that you couldn't fit within that smaller suitcase, and then valuables, cameras, things like that. Now, if you're going to be going on a longer voyage, 7 days, 14 days, or even transatlantic, you're definitely going to want to consider bringing a full suitcase. Even so, I would say if you're going to a destination that has completely different weather temperature from where you're traveling from, you may want to consider bringing one of those larger size suitcases. Now, when you arrive at the port to board for your Disney cruise, you're actually going to hand off your luggage. And so it's really important to keep a backpack or a small duffel bag or purse with you that has your valuables, passports, or other identification paperwork. You're going to want to have, of course, cameras, cell phones, medications, valuables with you. Another thing you may want to keep in mind is that your room may not be ready for a couple hours after you've boarded the ship. So if you and your family want to be able to access some of the activities such as the pools or the water slides, you may also want to keep a bathing suit or a change of clothes with you inside of that backpack or that small duffel bag so that you can change your clothes even if your room isn't ready. I would also encourage you to have some sort of smaller bag or maybe a shoulder bag or a little hip bag that you can use as you go throughout the cruise. So you can have, once again, phone, money, cards, all those sorts of things with you at all times. You may even want to consider bringing a swim bag. On my last Disney cruise, I purchased a small drawstring Speedo bag, and I used that to keep my bathing suit and change of clothes and things like that, whether I was doing the water activities around the cruise ship or I was on Castaway Cay. So you may want to have a bag like that with you, just so you can always have your things with you, and then if it gets wet, it dries out, or if you need to wash it because it gets like sand or something like that on it, you can quickly throw it into the washing machine. All right, now let's talk about clothing. How should you dress for a Disney cruise? Well, to be honest with you, I thought when I went on my Disney cruise that it was going to be very dressy, ball gowns, button-up jackets, and it was actually really casual. So if you're a fan of just kind of typical casual wear, or you go to the Disney parks a lot, what you wear at the Disney parks is perfectly acceptable to wear on a cruise ship. So shorts, t-shirts, sandals. There are a couple of options where if you plan on doing adult only dining, you are required to dress up and there is a dress code. So if you're planning on doing adult only dining, make sure that you check before you board so that you can bring the proper attire. I would encourage you to bring sandals and of course water shoes or shoes that you're comfortable with getting wet. You definitely have access to all sorts of pools, slides, and of course Castaway Cay and soon to be Lighthouse Point, which all are involving water, beaches, things like that. So it's very helpful to have shoes that you can get wet, or if they get sandy, that you can easily rinse off. I would also encourage you to bring a pair of closed-toed shoes. And I would encourage that just because you never know when you arrive at your different port of calls, if you're going to want to go and do different explorations or activities, hiking, different things like that. It's always nice to have one solid pair of tennis shoes with you, or some other form of closed-toed shoes that you have or you enjoy wearing that you can use for more involved things. There also is a complete fitness center on board. So if you are planning on working out, you're probably going to want to bring a pair of tennis shoes for that, and even some workout outfits that you can have. In regards to outerwear, I would encourage you, especially if you are going to one of the Disney cruise destinations that's going to be in the Caribbean and more of a tropical environment, you may want to bring a lightweight jacket or a rain jacket, because it can rain in these sorts of environments. And even just with being on the ship, they do have the air conditioning pumping all the time. So if you are like me and you tend to be a little bit more cooler, you're definitely going to want to probably keep a jacket with you as you're going throughout the ship and doing different activities. Of course, if you're going to a colder climate like Alaska, definitely make sure to bring those warm jackets, those pants, those parkas, whatever you need to stay warm. Another thing you may want to consider bringing are your Mickey ears. You will definitely see cast members and fellow cruise goers wearing Mickey ears. There are specific cruise line Mickey ears as well that you can purchase from shopdisney.com prior to your cruise, or you can even purchase before your cruise and they will be waiting for you in your room when you board, or you can buy them once you board the cruise from the different shops. But you may want to bring some Mickey ears. And then on every Disney cruise, there is a pirate night. So you're going to want to bring a pirate themed outfit. And I will be honest with you that on pirate night, you will see, you know, individuals that just have, let's say, like a bandana, or maybe just like a little like Jolly Roger on their shirt, but then you'll see other individuals that are head to toe full pirate gear. So the nice thing is that if you want to dress up and go like full authentic pirate, there will be fellow crew members and fellow cruise goers that will be right there with you. And if you want to take more of a laid back approach to pirate night, don't worry, you're not going to stand out. You won't look weird at all. Disney also gives you a little bandana that you can wear for pirate night, just in case you forget to bring pirate attire. But just so you know, if you want to bring more pirate wear and be completely authentically pirate, make sure to put some things in your suitcase. Now, while we're on the topic of clothing, I think it's important to talk about, should I bring a pool towel or a beach towel? And the answer to that is no. So Disney actually will provide towels for you on all of the water activity decks. And when you disembark and go to Castaway Cay, they will also provide you with towels. And even if you're going to a different port of call, let's say the Bahamas, Jamaica, Disney will actually give you towels, or have towels that you can access as you're disembarking. So if you're planning on, you know, let's say doing a water activity once you're there, or you want a towel for just, you know, going off on your own and going to the beach, Disney will provide you with one. So the only way I would say to bring a beach towel or pool towel is if you have a specific towel that you want to show off your Disney swag, but otherwise, you can use Disney's towels. So now let's talk about electronics. So I do want to give a prerequisite in saying that once you are aboard the Disney cruise ships and you have left the port, so let's say you're flying out of Florida, you're leaving, out of Florida, and you're pulling out of Miami or Port Canaveral, there is no Wi-Fi aboard the ship. There is Wi-Fi available for purchase, but just standard cruise ship protocol is that there is no Wi-Fi available. And so you may want to think about and consider whether or not you want to bring like your big laptops, iPads, things like that, because you can't really surf the web. Now, if you download the Disney Cruise Line app, there is a messenger feature within that app so that you can message your family and your friends that are on board with you, so you can stay in contact. But just keep that in mind if that affects whether or not you want to bring larger electronic devices. You also are not allowed to bring on any sort of USB drives or devices that you use to connect to streaming services. So like if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, those are prohibited, and they will confiscate them. So do not bring those sorts of electronic devices on board. Disney does have their own version of movies on demand on your cruise ship TV that you can access. So they have classic Disney movies and TV shows, but you're not going to be able to access Prime, Netflix, Hulu, none of that. So just be aware that if you're someone that likes to keep up to date on your shows and things like that, you're going to have to take a pause for your cruise. Now, something you may want to consider, like I mentioned, there is a messenger feature through the Disney Cruise Line app, but if you do not have a cell phone or you have smaller explorers with you and they don't have a phone, you may want to consider bringing along some walkie-talkies that you can use to communicate while you're aboard the cruise ship. Now, when it comes to sorts of chargers, so a lot of times people want to know, well, what sort of cable should I bring to charge my electronic devices? The nice thing is that they do have your typical 3-prong plug. They have European plugs or outlets, and then they also have micro USB and USB. So you should be pretty solid and covered depending upon what sort of electronic devices you want to bring. Some things you may want to consider bringing in addition to cameras and things like that would be a water camera. There are, once again, tons of water activities on board. And so I would recommend maybe considering purchasing a camera that can go underwater or can be wet. If you would like to film on the different water attractions, so like the aqueduct and things like that, it has to be a camera that is firmly secured onto your person. So most likely that would be something like a GoPro that you can mount onto your chest or on your wrist. You can't have a camera that you're just holding, and you're not even allowed to have like a swim bag for your phone and have that around your neck when you're going on those water slides. Everything has to be firmly attached to your person. So keep that in mind if you are someone that likes to film on water attractions. And while we're talking about cameras, you may also want to consider bringing lots of SD cards. I would say that for this past cruise that I took with my family, it was a 4-day cruise and I brought a total of 5 SD cards. And pretty much I used an entire SD card per day, and the SD card maximum was 32 gigabytes. So just keep that in mind. You know, I know that for me, I probably film a lot more than the average person. But if you are someone that likes to capture those special moments and likes to have the camera rolling, you probably are going to want to bring lots of SD cards or an SD card that has a large amount of data. I typically purchase SD cards online. I at minimum purchase the ones that are 32 gigabyte. The maximum SD cards that I tend to purchase are 128 gigabytes. If I purchase a SD card like that, it typically will last an entire trip. But just kind of keep that in mind that if you're using a typical camera, you can get a standard SD card. But if you're getting those waterproof cameras like a GoPro, you actually are going to need to purchase a micro SD card. So those are like the tiny, tiny, tiny ones. All right, so now let's talk about money. So what should you bring? So absolutely, you should bring cash. Now, before you board your Disney cruise ship, they are going to ask you to upload a credit card that they can use for room charges. But there are opportunities where you may want to pay for cash for different snacks and treats, or to leave tips to different cast members that you have a good experience with on the ship. And it's also just good to have money with you guys. You know, if for some reason, you know, something happens and you get stuck or lost somewhere, you don't want to be without any sort of money. So I would encourage you to bring cash and also to bring additional credit cards in addition to the one that you have uploaded to your account. Also be aware that when you upload a credit card to your account, you probably should let your bank know prior to travel that you're going on a cruise and that you have a card that's uploaded, and there are going to be charges that are going to be made. And I say this just because sometimes, depending upon what sort of bank you use and their security settings, if you're out in the middle of the ocean, they may get concerned if they see that there's like a 200 something charge from Nassau, Bahamas. And they're like, you've never been to Nassau before. Who's charging these things? So just speaking from maybe or maybe not personal experience, that you probably want to let your bike carrier know about unexpected charges coming their way. If you are enjoying this video so far, please make sure to consider giving a thumbs up and subscribing for more. It helps other Disney lovers like yourself to know that this is a channel that they may enjoy watching as well. Let's get back into it. All right, so now let's talk about which toiletries and sundries you should make sure that you take aboard. I would encourage you to consider using travel-sized items, and the main reason being is because if you're using like carry-on bags and carry-on luggage, you're not going to have a ton of space for those huge bottles of shampoo and conditioners. Now, obviously, if you're going to be doing a 14-night cruise or transatlantic, you're going to have to bring larger amounts. Disney does provide full bottles of their own H2O products within the bathroom. So they have huge bottles of lotion, soap, conditioner, shampoo. So if you're like me, I actually really like using the H2O products. So I only tend to bring a couple bottles of like my own soap, and then I typically just use Disney soap, so I don't have to bring a ton of my own. I would also encourage you guys out there to maybe consider packing like a mini first aid kit, and with that including things like anti-nausea, motion sickness meds, things to help with GI upset, as well as like diphenhydramine and NSAID, just things that you may need. It's always best, guys, to prepare for the unexpected. Of course, on the cruise ship, they do have a little pharmacy section within the gift shop. And even at the front desk, if you go to guest services, they do have a couple of items there, medications, and even smaller bottles of sunscreen. So if you forget things like that, you can get them. But it's always best just to have those things with you. And I would even encourage you maybe to keep a small, like that small first aid kit with you in a small bag with you at all times. So whether you're on the ship or at a port adventure, you and your loved ones have access to medications and things that you need. Once again, of course, you're going to want to make sure that you pack any specific medications, soaps, lotions that you need for your own self. But you may just want to consider having those additional items, things like Band-Aids, triple antibiotic ointment, things like that. And then of course you are going to want to make sure you pack lots and lots of sunscreen. There are tons of areas on the ship where you are going to be exposed to the sun. And as you're traveling south, especially if you're going towards the equator and more of those tropical environments, the intensity of the sun is going to greatly increase. So definitely make sure, guys, to lather up with the sunscreen, bring sunglasses to protect your eyes, hats, and even protective clothing while you're traveling. And I would even say if you're planning on traveling to a tropical environment where there are going to be reefs, consider purchasing sunscreen that is reef safe. There's a full list if you want more resources on that, where you can look up to see which sunscreen brands are actually safe to use in the reef. And the main reason is just that the chemicals that are in some sunscreen products actually can be damaging to the coral that are there. And so primarily you want to look for sunscreens that are mineral based, so ones that have like zinc as the active ingredient, just to be a little bit more safer for those environments that you're in. When it comes to some other accessories that you may want to consider in addition to hats and sunglasses, things like watches, there are no large clocks aboard the ship, and so I would encourage you to bring a watch with you. Most likely, I would say maybe an analog or a waterproof watch so that you can keep it on when you're swimming and doing those activities. I know a challenge for me whenever I'm on vacation and I go to the pool is that I don't tend to have like my phone with me, and so then I'm always like just trying to guess, okay, like I guess I've been in the pool for about an hour. So you may want to consider bringing a watch like that. If you bring your Apple Watch, just know that once again, like there's no Wi-Fi and cellular data is greatly increased, especially for text messages and things like that. So you may even want to consider not bringing your Apple Watch and just going the old classic route. And then what should you bring for your room? Now, you will have a mini fridge within your room. So if you are able to, before boarding your cruise, I would encourage you to go to the local store, maybe pick up some cans of soda, some water bottles, so you don't have to buy that once you're on the cruise, even snacks, different things like that that you would need if you're traveling with smaller ones. If there's certain juices or formula or things like that that they need, consider bringing that to have in your room as well. And it is very popular on Disney Cruise line ships to decorate your door. A lot of people will purchase different magnets, and in the past there was even a system where different guests would leave things on their door and they would give them away to other guests. Disney has kind of cut back on this and recommended not doing this in light of recent events that have happened worldwide. But you still can show your personality through decorating your door. So magnets, signs, all sorts of fun things like that just help to add a little bit of character and let cast members and other guests know a little bit about you. Something that's really important to make sure that you have with you when you're on a Disney cruise, or any cruise for that matter, is your passport or proof of US citizenship. This is vitally important, guys. For most cruise ships, it's a requirement to board, it's a requirement to disembark at different locations, it's a requirement to get back on the ship. And once again, if something were to happen and you were to be left behind, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have that so that you can get home safely. So always, always, always make sure to have your passport, passport card, passport book, or proof of US citizenship. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you think of any more things that are really important to make sure that you pack for a Disney cruise, don't forget to let all of us know in the comments below so that we can benefit from that information. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure to like, subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.